Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and I am back again with the second exclusive STAMPtember release. The first one was Lawn Fawn. This now is SugarPea Designs that Simon Says Stamp has collaborated with for this exclusive STAMPtember stamp set, and this is called Cuddly Cacti. It is the cutest little set. So I have some distress watercolor paper here with the smooth side facing up in my stamp platform. And I just lined up all of the stamp images in the set. And then I'm going to use my anti-static powder tool. I'm going to stamp all of these images. I'm going to ink them up with VersaFine ONYX black ink. Going to stamp them a couple times to make sure and get all the detail and everything stamped. And because VersaFine ONYX black ink takes a little while to dry, it gives me enough time to coat this with some clear embossing powder, and I'm just using Simon's Detail Clear embossing powder. And then once I've got those coated, I can use my heat tool to melt these. And you don't have to do the heat embossing, you could just stamp the images and color them. I just like adding the heat embossing because it gives that little extra raised edge, keeps everything a little more contained, and I can move a little faster, go a little quicker when I do watercoloring and whatnot. So after I've melted everything, I'm going to use my Arteza real brush pens to do my watercoloring, and it's very, very simple watercoloring. I'm literally just scribbling down the color from the marker and then pulling it out with my little water brush. So that just gives me, you know, more than one shade of the same color and just simple. One thing I was noticing, I haven't used these in a while, but one thing I was really liking with these is even though the image is wet, I can still go back in with the marker and add a little bit more color, pull it out a little bit more. So I've got, you know, that little wiggle room, because sometimes water-based markers, if the image is wet, it just kind of doesn't really add any more color. So with these, I can usually add more color and not have to wait till it's dry, you know, add another layer, anything like that. So I use just a ton of different greens. I have the great big set of 96. So I just pulled out the little tray that has all the green markers in it and just started pulling them out at random. I did all the little cacti in every, like, all different shades of green. I thought that was just kind of a cute little touch. So scribbled on those markers, added water with my little water brush, and then I'm going to let these dry. And then once I've got all of the little cacti colored in, I am going to use just one of the purpley pink sort of colors to do all these little flowers that are on some of the cacti. And then there's that individual one that could be, well, it could either be another, like a succulent image or, you know, a flower. So I just colored it purple. And then after I got all of these colored, I did add a little bit more, like a second little layer of that purple just to kind of intensify it a bit. And I just chose some random, like, brighter colors to watercolor in these flower pots. And off camera, I ended up doing a couple more because I wanted enough for all of these images. So after I'm done all my coloring, I decided I had to add a little bit of shimmer because, you know, it's always... you can't go wrong with a bit of shimmer. So I pulled out my Tonic Aqua Shimmer pen. This will reactivate any sort of watercolor, especially ones like this that are already, like, very water reactive, these watercolor brush pens. So I'm just careful when I apply shimmer over them because I don't want to move the color around too much. And I always wipe the brush off of the Tonic, the Aqua Shimmer pen, between the colors so that I don't end up, like, muddying things up or mixing up the colors. And I started by just doing the flower pots, and then I added it to the little flowers, and then I'm like, why not just add it to the whole thing? More is more, why not? So I painted all of them with the Aqua Shimmer, and because I've said this, I say this every time I use this, what I really love about it is it just, you know, just looking at it flat, straight on, no light shining on it, they look almost completely normal. Like, they're not so glittery that it's just crazy. And yet when the light hits them, so I'm going to turn the flashlight on my phone. When the light hits them, then you see the shimmer. So it's funny how completely different this looks, just depending on the light it's sitting in. So there is an option to get the coordinating die set. This, like I said, this is a STAMPtember exclusive, so this is very limited edition. The Lawn Fawn set sold out in the combo set. The stamp set's still available. I have it linked in a previous video. The combo set sold out, I think, in 24 hours. It's just been nuts. So this set is available either as just the stamp set, or you can get it as a stamp set and wafer dies. And I'll have links to everything in the description box below the video, as well as on my blog. And because it's an exclusive, it's only while supplies last through the month of STAMPtember. And then we're all kind of back to our regularly scheduled programming after that. So I decided to create 2 cards since I have all these little cacti and little flower pots or whatever to put them in. So for my first card, I just took my heavyweight white cardstock card base, and I taped on Simon's new Harvest stencil, and I kind of taped it purposely off to the side, and then I'm just really lightly sponging on some Oxide inks, keeping the color concentrated more towards the center. I just wanted just a nice, pretty little background, and mostly because I just really wanted to play with this stencil because it's so pretty. So I started with Dusty Concord Distress Oxide ink, and I have a scrap paper there on the lower right, and I would kind of sometimes wipe the blending sponge off on that just so that the colors weren't too harsh, because I wanted it subtle and just a nice little smooth blend. So I did the Dusty Concord, I added a little bit of Worn Lipstick, and then my last color was Tattered Rose there. And then once I had all of that sponged on there, I had off camera die cut the word Yay from the CZ Design Yay's wafer die set. And I die cut it 3 times from black cardstock and then stacked them together just with multimedia matte adhesive. So just kind of figuring out where I want my sentiment to go, where I want the die cut to go, where I'm going to have my little cacti. And once I had, I'm using a sentiment from the Cuddly Cacti stamp set, and I stamped that with that same VersaFine ONYX black ink. And then since I had my platform out, I also opened up the card, and I'm going to stamp another sentiment on the inside of the card just to get that all done. So then I've kind of figured out where I want to place everything. So I have my little sentiment. I'm going to adhere that little die cut Yay to my card base with more multimedia matte adhesive. Once I get that in place, I'm going to stack some of my acrylic blocks on top of it just to hold that flat for a couple minutes while the adhesive dries. And then these little cacti, I'm just going to pop them into place with a little bit of foam tape. Just they're, popped up and all cute and adorable. These images are so cute. So it'll say, yay, it's your birthday fiesta like there's no manana. Love it. And then on the inside of the card, it says you're always on point. Another just cute little sentiment. So I'm going to adhere another little flower pot there and another cacti to just kind of finish off the inside of the card. So that's card number 1, just kind of fairly clean and simple. For card number 2, I pulled out the Honeybee Stamp Stacking Hearts wafer dies that I actually haven't cut apart yet. So I'm going to run those through my die cut machine with the proper sandwich stack. You just have to look through your instructions depending on the machine you use. And I used a tan embossing mat so that the flower or the hearts embossed rather than cut. So now I have those all impressed into the front of my card. And then the sentiment, I just die cut some black cardstock with the new sentiment labels wafer dies that, again, I've been raving about in these last couple videos since it got released on the 1st. I'm reaching for these. I haven't been putting them away. So I die cut black cardstock with that, and then I stamped another sentiment from the Cuddly Cacti set. And I stamped it with clear embossing ink and white heat embossed that onto the black cardstock. And then I decided to take some of that Worn Lipstick Distress Oxide ink and just kind of sponge it over the kind of center embossed hearts just for a little more color. And also because I can't leave well enough alone. So I sponged a little bit of that on, and then I'm going to adhere the sentiment to my card base with just more multimedia matte because I just had it sitting there, so it was convenient. And then I'm going to use this little hugging cacti image. Just kills me. I think it's so cute. So I popped that up with a little flower pot, popped that up with foam tape, and then I used the edge of the card there as my guide to trim off that excess black cardstock. And then I'm going to stamp another sentiment on the inside of the card. So the outside says, when life gets prickly, I'll be by your side. And on the inside, it'll say, thanks for being my friend even when I'm prickly, which that's another one I can use a lot. I could send that to everyone who knows me. So stamp that, and then on the inside I added the last 2 little cacti images because I couldn't let any go to waste, so I had to use them. So I was like, oh, I can squeeze 2 of them into this flower pot. So I adhered those and adhered the little flower pot into place. And then once that was all adhered, I had that remaining little like flower succulent. So I just kind of popped that onto the main image as well. And then as a final little bit of embellishment, I pulled out some Pretty Pink Posh. These are the pearl white jewels. So I get a subtle, you know, a little bit more bling, but nothing too crazy. So put the stuck those into place with more little dabs of multimedia matte adhesive, pick those up with my jewel picker, and then press those into place. And that's going to finish off my cards. So as always, there will be a link below the video to my blog post. I'll have a supply list with links to all the supplies used. You can check that out below if you're interested. Again, these are STAMPtember exclusive stamps, this Cuddly Cacti set. So if you are watching this, you know, a year down the road or whenever, I apologize. These are no longer available, but there's so many to choose from. So these are very time sensitive. So check them out if you are interested and want to get them. And thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.